Forspoken will definitely make the list of worst games to release this year, yet Square Enix never planned to give up on it. They announced updates and DLCs, which some people were hopeful for, but now the full trailer for the first DLC, In Tanto We Trust, has been released, and it is getting completely destroyed online by people who are saying you are not doing a good enough job with this game. I have a few different things to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon or supporter via YouTube memberships. So I've had to talk about Forspoken quite a lot on the channel because leading up to launch, everyone was laughing at this game. The footage that we saw made it look awful. Some of the character information we got really turned a lot of people off, and it just seemed like another mediocre AAA release. And then it came out and it was worse than everyone expected. It was buggy, it was broken, the dialogue was cringeworthy, the story was just really bad, and overall it was a mediocre title like we expected it to be. But then everything kind of went quiet from Square Enix. They didn't make a lot of statements. They were basically just trying to stay silent, hoping some of the backlash would die down. But it only got worse for them because we found out that Luminous Productions was actually merging with Square Enix. This game failed so terribly that it completely missed any kind of sales expectations they had, and they decided, you know what, Luminous Productions, you're done. We're just gonna put the developers on different projects, and that was that. But now it's time for the DLC to launch. At the end of the month, the DLC In Tanto We Trust will be coming out, so they're starting to tease it. They're releasing first look trailers of it, and nobody seems impressed by it. Because all of the trailers are actually getting ratioed, and on social media, people are just laughing at them for this bad attempt at creating some type of hype for this game. So on the official Square Enix Twitter account, they made this post. Here's your first look at the Forspoken In Tanto We Trust story DLC. Everything you need to know ahead of the release. And this is actually like a prequel DLC from what we've heard. But it doesn't really matter because people do not care. DLC? Square Enix really dares to charge a DLC for this game? Damn. I completely agree. This game was just a bad experience for $70. Never mind charging people on top of that for extra content that you had relatively quickly after the full release. It's like they decided, you know what, we're just going to cut this content and then we're going to make it a DLC, or they at least had it 90% done by the game. DLC? Square Enix really dares to charge a DLC for this game? Damn. Ultimately, they are looking to make as much money as quickly as possible because we do know this game didn't hit sales expectations and it's basically already dead. Steam player charts show that the numbers are awful. We don't know the PlayStation 5 numbers, but one would assume those are really bad at this point as well. It is good that they're not completely giving up on this game, but at the same time, they shouldn't be charging people for extra content. I've said this quite a lot on the channel, but I'm ultimately happy they're not giving up on this game because if they did, it sets a precedent. If Square Enix is willing to drop a game just because it didn't do what they expected, then other companies will do it. And we don't want that happening where companies promise consumers lots of extra content and then they say, well, we're just gonna give up on it because it didn't sell as much as we expected. But at the same time, they need to try to find ways to get people to actually purchase this DLC, and so far, I'm not seeing a way they're doing that. Feels like a lot of people already gave up on this game. They have. This game wasn't the most hyped AAA release that I've seen, but at the same time, there were a lot of people who had a lot of expectations for it. I mean, a year ago, I was planning on playing this game when it was still called Project Athia. I thought the teasers that we saw then did look pretty good for it, but then as we got closer to release and we heard all of the character backstory and we saw some of that cringy dialogue, I decided I was going to skip on it, and I'm glad that I did. But this was a title a lot of people were looking forward to that just ended up disappointing. And on YouTube, they've actually released these trailers in full, and again, completely ratioed. This one only went up a day ago. It's got 104,000 views, but it's sitting at 3.2k likes to 7.1k dislikes, and IGN had posted the same exact video, 838 likes to 2.5k dislikes. And just judging this single trailer, in my opinion, it was very lacking. There is one line of dialogue at the end, the story isn't explained at all, and while yes, the combat looks a bit better since they did say it would feature a complete overhaul, half the trailer is just visual effects from the moves, which is pretty, but doesn't give us a lot of substance, and it is just one of the bad video game trailers that I've seen over the past few months. If I didn't know what Forspoken was and I watched this, I'd be like, oh, that's cool. So anyway, I'm not that interested. Like, it just doesn't have any hard substance, and to me, that's what I want to see in a trailer. But a lot of people are, of course, commenting things like, wow, this just doesn't look great. Truly one of the DLCs of all time, not specifying that it's good, just saying it's a DLC. I'm genuinely curious what the peak player count for this DLC is going to be. Typically, yes, DLC releases do bump up player numbers, especially for a game like this that is single player. People played it in the first 2 or 3 weeks of releasing, and then they set it and forget it until In Tanto We Trust released. But at the same time, I don't think it's going to sell more copies of the game, which is ultimately what they need it to do. Man, the game showcases a lot better when they intentionally don't have dialogue in the trailer. I do feel like, in a way, this game seems 10 times better without there being dialogue, but at the same time, when I'm seeing a trailer for a DLC, I want to know something about the story and what I would be spending money on, and they don't really provide that. Again, the gameplay itself does look a bit better than it previously did, but when I'm watching something like this, honestly, all I'm thinking about is Black Desert Online, because it is so big and flashy, and a lot of these moves seem extremely similar. Not that that's bad, but the only thing this game has going for it at this point is how flashy it really is. They made her so silent with their freaking mind. That was also a very good meme to come out of this game. But yeah, at this point, I don't know what Square Enix is going to do after this DLC. I don't know if they plan to do multiple more DLCs, but I just don't think it's going to save the title. I mean, look at the user scores on Metacritic. A 63 critic and a 1.9 user score. You really can't go much lower, and I don't see new content really raising that score much. So I feel like this game overall is just a flop. I think what they're going to do is release this DLC and then set it and forget it, never release anything else with the game, because they haven't promised anything else with it, at least besides DLC, and technically they would have fulfilled that. But yeah, Square is trying to hype people up about this new DLC. Of course, it's getting absolutely roasted in return, and it just looks like more mediocre content for the Forspoken player base, the all of 5 people who still play this game. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this and of course found it important and informative, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.